bar stool and stared hopefully up at the toast. Neve poured her daughter a glass of apple juice as she tried to pluck Callum's name from the filing cabinet of her mind. Ah, yes, Callum. Poppy had spoken about him a lot recently. He was new to St. Joseph's, and from what Neve had gleaned from Poppy, he had just come out of mainstream education, not dissimilar to Poppy's own route to St. Joseph's. She'd had a hard time progressing through the education system, and her transition into secondary school had been particularly painful. 12-year-olds weren't as forgiving or accepting as primary school children. All Poppy's needs were suddenly amplified, and her coping mechanisms became inadequate. Her behaviour was sometimes unpredictable, and her social skills underdeveloped, making her prime fodder for relentless teasing. Even though the special educational needs team had tried to help Poppy, Kit and Neve had taken the decision to remove her from secondary school and send her to St. Joseph's, where they had the resources, the time, the funding, and the understanding. Poppy appeared to be thriving at the school, so neither of them had regretted it for a moment. "He's going to share his sandwiches with me," said Poppy, chomping on her toast. She wiped a splodge of jam from the corner of her mouth with her hand. "He has cucumber sandwiches." "Just cucumber?" Neve glanced at the clock, aware that Kit's 60 seconds to put in an appearance were nearly up. Unfortunately, as she looked back at Poppy, Neve realised the time check had not been missed. "Dad will be here in 3 seconds," said Poppy. 2, 1... She looked expectantly towards the door. "Dad?" "He won't be long," said Neve. "Drink your apple juice." She slid the glass closer to Poppy. "You shouldn't tell lies," said Poppy. "Sorry, I didn't mean to. I meant approximately a minute." Poppy peered into her glass. "I don't think blue suits you." Poppy's honesty was as charming as it was painful at times. Neve had long since learned to take any negatives on the chin, but every now and again it did hurt, just a little bit. She looked down at her dress. She'd only bought it last week and had loved it as soon as she'd seen it. An unbidden wish to have a daughter who shared her likes and loves flicked through Neve's mind, immediately followed by a rush of guilt. Neve wasn't wishing Poppy was different. It was just sometimes the thought of another child, whose company was easier to navigate, made Neve yearn for that one thing her husband was denying her. The sound of footsteps coming down the hall cancelled the need to take the conversation further. Kit came through into the kitchen, straightening his tie whilst carrying his jacket in the crook of his arm. "You're late," said Poppy, without looking up at her father. Neve exchanged a look with Kit. "Late?" he queried, and then dropped a kiss on his daughter's head. "Morning, Poppy." "You were supposed to be here about 20 seconds ago," said Neve, popping a coffee pod into the machine. 25, actually," corrected Poppy. "Oops, sorry," said Kit. He moved around the Central Island counter and kissed Neve on the cheek. "What's on the agenda for today?" "I have some shopping to do, then it's the open afternoon at Poppy's school." Kit's blank expression told her he'd forgotten. Neve enlightened him. "Where we get to see the project they've been working on?" "Town and country project," interjected Poppy. "You said you'd come." "Ah, yes," said Kit, fiddling with his tie. "I did, didn't I?" He looked at Neve with a "help me out of this" expression. Neve was tempted to let him dig his own way out. Kit, of all people, should know that breaking a promise to Poppy wasn't something that could be passed off easily. And why should it? Just because Poppy had a different perspective on life to most other people, why did he think it was okay to let her down?